When I say Superman and Clark Kent are the same, it's obvious what I mean by same. But what about when I say you and I are the same? How can two different things be the same? Let's consider. Hello philosophers, I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Show, where we consider the greatest questions of human history. Have you ever wondered how people can commit acts of atrocity? Things like genocide, use of biological warfare, smooth jazz. Something a lot of these people that commit acts of atrocity seem to have in common is they dehumanize their victims. Sort of like mentally they say, you are not human. You are not the same as me. Because once we see each other as the same, we begin to empathize with each other. And once you empathize with someone, it's really hard to do awful things to them. So seeing each other as the same really is very pivotal for us. Now, there's a very interesting work by William Shakespeare called The Merchant of Venice. Now, I'm not claiming to be a Shakespeare expert. I took a class on it at the Air Force Academy, but I slept through pretty much the entire thing. And I know it was good because they applauded at the end of the class, and I remember waking up like, wow, was this great? But then I slept through pretty much every class, so except philosophy. In The Merchant of Venice, Shylock is a very stereotypical, miserly Jewish person. And for that reason, this play has been criticized for anti-Semitism. He's looking to exact revenge on someone, but through some really bizarre laws, he's supposed to get a pound of flesh from this guy, which seems pretty crazy. Now, when he's explaining why he wants this revenge, he points out that the guy he wants revenge from has been wronging him just because he's Jewish. And he gives one of the most famous speeches in literature. I'm a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? Which is kind of weird. I don't know why he puts that in there, but if you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? In other words, I am the same as Antonio, the guy that he's trying to get the pound of flesh from. So think of this statement then. Shylock is the same as Antonio. Now, in the last video, when we were talking about predication, we wondered about this statement, Shylock is human. How can we successfully predicate human of Shylock? Shylock doesn't mean human. Shylock isn't what it is to be human. The word Shylock seems to identify that specific person right there. What does the word human identify? This time, let's also consider the statement, Antonio is human. Shylock is human, Antonio is human. Wait, same word? Now, we don't mean the same thing that we mean when we say Clark Kent is the same as Superman, and yet it seems to be a true statement. Now, sometimes the same word is used, but means different things. The Board of Education and I stepped on a board. But this isn't one of those cases. Here, human seems to mean the exact same thing for Antonio as it does for Shylock. In fact, that's Shylock's whole argument. But now here's the question. How can human be here with Shylock and there with Antonio? Is it the exact same thing in two different places? And typically we wouldn't believe something like that. Let's say your mom calls you up and says, hey, where were you last night? And you say, oh, I was in my dorm room studying all night, Mom. And then the next day she finds out you were out partying. You say, oh, yeah, I was at the party, Mom, but I was also in my room all night studying. Well, clearly we're not going to believe that. How can we believe that human exists over here in Shylock and over here in Antonio? One possible solution you may think of. Well, we just mean something similar over here as over here. But notice the word similar kind of sneaks in the word same. You're similar if you have something that's the same and something that's different. What's different is obviously Shylock versus Antonio. Our question is, where is this same coming from? How is it the same thing? In what way is it same? You might also think by same, I just mean made of the same stuff. But again, same question. You say flesh and blood over here, flesh and blood over here. What makes them the same thing? Flesh and blood. Flesh and blood. The same question seems to pop up. In the last video, we also talked about the difference between kinds, properties, and relations. The same problem happens with properties and relations. I say this is a brown hand. I also say this is a brown hand. But how can they be the same brown, right? This isn't like different shades of brown. This is the exact same thing. The exact same brown here and the exact same brown here. Do they share something like physically in common? Obviously not. They're in two different places. So how can the same brown exist in two different places? And again, relation. I am in front of the bookcase. The computer is in front of me. How can in front of exist back here, but also over here? How is it the same relation? And again, these phenomena are going to lead up to our question about universals. Phenomenon number one was predication. How can we truly predicate attributes of the things that have them? Phenomenon number two, attribute agreement. How can two different things share the same attribute? They're different things in different places. How can it be the same attribute in both places? Next time, we'll talk about a third phenomenon, and that's going to lead us up into the question, what are universals? But like I always say, the best philosophy happens in dialogue. So hit me up in the comments, let me know what you think, let me know any questions that you have. If you're struggling in that metaphysics class, I'd love to help you out by explaining a little bit more. And always like, subscribe, comment, and tag a friend so that they can join the conversation. That's all I got for today. Adios.